You may have heard late last month, DirecTV and its parent company, AT&T, made the decision to drop one of the fastest growing and top news networks in America, Newsmax. And it's prompted calls from lawmakers to investigate the real motive behind this move. A lot of them are saying, hey, this is censorship. It's political bias. And I'll tell you, somebody else believes that. Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy, he's with us right now to nail it all down. Please welcome to the show, Chris Ruddy. Chris, great having you here.
First of all, Governor, I'm honored to be here. It's not every day I sit next to the father of a future president of the United States.
You know, who knows?
This State of the Union thing was tremendous because it showed such, and she talked about the contrast, but it was so clear that what the future of America is your daughter and the Republican Party, and the Democrats don't have a lot to offer.
Well, they have a few people who are 75 and above, but that's where that's their youth group that comes in.
With 20% inflation and wiping out your value and income, and it's scary what's going on. You know, Newsmax has been around for a while. We were a digital media site. We became a cable TV channel. No one could believe it. In just a few years, we went from nothing to be the 4th highest rated cable news channel, reaching 25 million Americans regularly, and that's according to Nielsen, so it's not my number. And we have had tremendous success. We got on every major cable system. We were up for renewal last year. And you know what? Hundreds of cable companies renewed with us. Dish, for instance, has us. And everything was going fine. And we're up with renewal for AT&T and DirecTV this January. They said, we're not going to continue you unless you accept 0 cable fees.
Now, explain that, because a lot of people, they don't understand how the whole business works. So I want you to walk us through cable companies, in order to have the programming that they can offer their viewers, typically pay the networks some type of carriage fee.
Well, customers pay the cable companies, right? And then they go out and they basically lease channels like CNN, Fox News, ESPN, and they'll pay those channels from the customer's money that comes in. And the customers obviously want those channels. So the higher rated channels usually are the most valuable, and we're pretty highly rated, and certainly in news. We're a top 20 cable channel overall. And DirecTV said, you know what? We're not going to pay Newsmax any fee. We're going to pay you 0. And we're like, well, everybody else gets paid. Everybody else gets a fee. And we were asking for such a silly low amount. It was $1 per cable subscriber per year. CNN gets $14.
$1 a year is all you want.
And CNN gets $14 a year. They called this excessive, and we were deplatformed. Now, what's amazing is this is the 2nd conservative channel deplatformed by AT&T DirecTV in a year. They got rid of One America, OAN, which was a popular conservative channel. This whole started under Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats. They wrote a letter to AT&T and other cable companies saying, please remove One America, Newsmax, and Fox News because they're spreading disinformation. And you know what? AT&T has complied with 2 of the 3. So we're fighting back. We're telling Americans about the bias. A lot of companies would just go quietly into the night about this, but not us. And you know, it's part of, Governor, a larger trend we're seeing of the censorship going on across the board in social media, in television, and now big tech and big media.
Chris, but what makes this so very outrageous is that they are responding to people who hold public office, who have pressured a business to disenfranchise an information service and a news service. That's frightening.
Well, it's actually illegal and a violation of constitutional rights for government to work with private organizations to suppress my speech, restrict and limit my access to public carriers like AT&T. And we know now very strong evidence this took place because of the Twitter files. And they show that the FBI actually colluded with Twitter to restrict, and Newsmax was one of those companies restricted. And you know what? I think it's the tip of the iceberg. I think that they did it with Facebook. They did it with other social media and Google. And we were restricted, especially after the 2020 election. You know, and even before that, we weren't allowed to report on the Hunter Biden laptop, and they said it was Russian disinformation. They now later admit 2 years later. But the left is so hostile now, so militarized and polarizing, they want to close down conservative media and conservative voices. It's a real threat to the Constitution. And Ben Carson, who's a big supporter of us in this, he says that it's a threat to the Constitution, our basic freedoms.
And it also is not fair to the marketplace because it means that the only news some people are ever going to be able to get is news that a government entity working in concert with the communications company has decided that you can watch. That is very frightening, Chris.
Well, liberals' idea of diversity is everything is diverse except ideas. You can't have diversity of ideas. But there's 22 liberal news channels we count. Like even the Vice channel is for millennials, left wing. The Comedy channel is liberal news for kids, for millennials. And you go through this list, we count at least 22 of these liberal leaning channels. And all now they have is Fox. And I think that's not good, that's not diverse, but it's not balanced. The country's 50% center right. We should have more voices, and they want to restrict those voices. I think it has a lot to do with the election coming up in 24.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Why AT&T DirecTV? I mean, the other networks that kept you on, Comcast and DirecTV, you mentioned them, and the big cable operators, Verizon. So what is it that they specifically responded to? Did they give you any reason?
Well, they say it's a business decision. They're running out of money. They're running out of money. They made $2.7 billion in profits last year. DirecTV is still very successful. We're talking a tiny little bit compared to the hundreds of millions they pay these liberal channels. Most of which, there's 22 of those liberal news channels. We're number 4. We have higher ratings than most of them. They're paying all of them more money than we're asking.
Was this sudden? Did you know this was coming? Had this been brewing for months, or did they just call you up and say, hey, we're done with you?
We had indications that they were probably going to renew us, and then they started indicating that they'd renew us, but they never give us one penny, which is a strange thing. And the way the cable industry works, again, I don't want to get into the weeds too much, if you accept zero payment from them, from DirecTV, every other cable company pays you zero. They're 100%. All interlocked.
Hey, you know, there's a great show that also comes on Newsmax. The Huckabee Show comes on Newsmax on the weekend, as well as on TBN, which we are very happy that our show is also on Newsmax. So it matters to me. It matters to all of us on this show.
It's important that we have more voices, not less. And I think AT&T has, you know, it used to be a very traditional corporate button-down company. I think it's changed in recent years. They were very anti-Trump. They owned CNN during the period it became very weaponized against Trump, against the Republicans. The new owners, they spun it off. They're really trying to clean it up. But you know what? All the other cable companies, to one degree or another, are more liberal and more left, but they still believe in diversity of voices and opinion. And we have found a home across America, and people are tuning in. The numbers are fantastic for Newsmax, and they keep growing.
But just this week, you've had a magnificent letter of support from the Jewish community, some of the heaviest hitters in the Jewish leadership of the nation, including people like Alan Dershowitz and former Ambassador David Friedman. The list is long. It's incredibly impressive. I mean, how can they ignore the support that you're getting?
And you know, most of the Jewish leaders that signed on, I wouldn't say are conservative politically. They're just fair-minded. They care about the coverage about Israel because they see how much bias it is. And they care about anti-Semitism. They know Newsmax covers that. We cover traditional values. We celebrate the Judeo-Christian ethic. Most networks don't. We've gotten very strong support from the Christian community. The 700 Club did a report. There's Tony Perkins, Troy Miller at the NRB. Many people are speaking out. President Trump has spoken out, and he said he's so angry about this, he's encouraging people actually to boycott and cancel DirecTV and AT&T. And it's a way people, I think, can vote with their pocketbooks if they agree with that view. We believe that, obviously, and I think you said it, that if people, they don't like conservatives at DirecTV and they don't like people that have traditional values, those folks can just go to another service. It's a free country.
It is a competitive industry. What are the ways that just somebody watching us right now, how can they help? What can they do?
We have an online petition page. It's iwantnewsmax.com, iwantnewsmax.com. If they want to call DirecTV to complain, or AT&T, we have a number set up. It's 877 Newsmax, very easy to remember. And we also have, if you call 877 Newsmax, we can connect you to Congress. And we're informing Congress because this is an issue. It's not a financial issue. It's about censorship. It's about focusing and them targeting on a media company that's the fourth largest media channel, news channel in the nation, and essentially trying to put it out of business, trying to demonetize it. And people are outraged. Ted Cruz has spoken very loudly about this in Congress. We have a number of supporters that have come out. There have been about more than a dozen senators. I would say there's been about 70 to 80 congressmen that have spoken out. Ken Buck, who's tremendous out of Colorado, led 18 congressmen took to the House floor, took it over for 1 hour, and just went on speeches about the censorship attack on Newsmax. So it's uplifting when you see really true public servants taking a stand, and we really appreciate our viewers taking a stand with us.
Well, you got a lot of support out there. I've been reading Newsmax magazine for many, many years. I've watched the birth of the Newsmax channel when it first came out, and then have watched the explosive growth. And you've got some of the top talent in TV news on Newsmax, so it is something that people are going to want. Chris, I want to say thanks for coming. Thanks for giving us the insight to the story. Now, please know that you can find Newsmax on most cable providers and online, and you might even be watching us on Newsmax right now. But we also have links to connect you with Newsmax on our website. So if you go to Huckabee.tv, we will have a link. You can connect to Chris Ruddy and Newsmax on social media and sign that petition and let your voice be heard. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I hope you will now. The button is just below this video, and there's a little bell next to it. If you click on those, YouTube will reluctantly start letting you know when we've got a new video uploaded.